Moments of terror in the town of Mountainburg, Arkansas, as a massive tornado yesterday uprooted trees and upended lives.
It was very scary.
Tammy Heister barely had time to get her sister and dogs to safety. Today, the cleanup. County officials say the twister damaged 160 structures and injured 4 people.
It didn't hit me until this morning when I woke up, and it was like, oh, I just lived through something I probably shouldn't have.
All day, storms hit the southeast. In Louisiana, a 2-year-old girl died after a tree fell on her family's RV. And throughout the plains, blizzard warnings. In Minnesota, the snow is piling up. In western Nebraska, the storm sidelined more than 100 motorists. Meanwhile, in northwestern Oklahoma, evacuations underway because of these wildfires that have already killed 1 firefighter. And out east, weather whiplash at New York's Rockefeller Center, temperatures in the high 70s. Back in Arkansas, Tammy Heister knows the cleanup and rebuilding could take weeks.
How do you pick up after something like this?
Just keep pushing forward.
Pushing forward in the hopes of coming back stronger.
Earlier today, severe storms moved across South Florida.
2 tornadoes touching down, a waterspout forming off the coast, and even a tree toppling onto a home.
It was a dangerous day for a few hours.
And Local 10 News has live team coverage on the danger we faced.
It came on so fast, Lori and Calvin, that homeowners could only react. In fact, the woman who lives next door says it was lightning that hit this tree, sending it crashing down into a fence, into another tree, and then eventually right on top of her house. It was a wild day of weather. The storms came in fast and furious, with crackling hail dropping in Davie.
Oh my goodness!
By late afternoon, reports of a tornado in Fort Lauderdale. Check out the twister downtown. And to the east, a waterspout spotted over the ocean.
It was 2 seconds. I could have been history.
But it was lightning that did in this giant tree next to Iris Walker's house. She says she heard the boom and then saw her ceiling cave in.
All of a sudden, here's the roof coming down, and where is this coming from?
It was also likely lightning in Parkland that burned up this tiki hut. In Miami Gardens, the spark at this home was from a power line. It was like fireworks.
We could have been having a completely different conversation if we weren't able to do what we did and cut the power off, because it was just like lights flickering, bulbs popping inside the house.
As storms cleared, a mess was left behind. At Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, high winds from a suspected twister toppling containers on the tarmac. As for Iris,
well, I'm still here. It's the idea that, my life was 2 inches from being finished.
More than 100 dead geese recently dropped out of the sky in Idaho. Authorities said the birds were most likely struck by lightning April 7th while migrating. Officials first came across around 50 carcasses in a parking lot in the city of Idaho Falls. They later found another 60 or so geese on rooftops. The discoveries were made after a storm with lightning and hail. Conservation officer Jacob Burrell told the Idaho Statesman, quote, several of the geese had their stomachs blown open and all of them were dead. None were injured. Officials described the incident as a, quote, freak accident. Necropsies will be carried out to determine more information about how the animals died. Tens of thousands of birds make their way across Idaho each year while migrating from California and Mexico to Canada.
Today, a second sign that we could be in store for another algae crisis. We first told you about how Hurricane Irma ripped up the bottom of Lake Okeechobee, killing the seagrass, which filters pollutants from flowing into the St. Lucie estuary. Now, a fish kill in the Indian River Lagoon. Last time that happened, 2016. We know how that summer went. The Now's Alex Hagan with our story today from Vero Beach.
At Bethel Creek in Vero Beach,
dumps right in here to Bethel Creek.
Lou Dessart recalls the recent sewage spill near her home.
Murky, floating things.
She says it still lingers.
We know that this is a problem.
But now she's worried about something else.
Very worried about it.
Pictures.
Dead fish and brown water.
And videos surfacing of brown algae and dead fish in Brevard County, just north of here along the Indian River Lagoon.
It's already started. We're reading articles.
Shades of 2016 before the algae crisis on the Treasure Coast.
Shame to see so many dead fish over there.
Rolando Pena has seen it firsthand.
Pretty soon we don't have enough fish at all.
Environmentalists say the fish kills are because of sewage issues up north, not tied to LACO releases.
400 species of fish.
Scientist Grant Gilmore studies rare species of fish in the Indian River Lagoon threatened by pollution. Here's his take on all of this.
We have to be very careful of what we do around our homes, our yards, and also our cropland.
And it's a cause for concern down south, especially if we see LACO discharges again this summer.
I wouldn't be surprised if this summer we started seeing the harmful blooms down in Stewart that we saw in 2016.
Yeah, that's something we do not want to hear. In Vero Beach.
It's time to listen. It's time to listen, and it's time to do something.
I'm Alex Hagan for The Now.
Putain, ce qui est tombé là. Bon, par contre là.
Ça arrive, ça arrive, ça arrive. Oh les arbres.
Oh les voitures et tout. Oh putain.
The self-proclaimed researcher David Meade now says doomsday will be April 23rd. Like his previous predictions, Meade claims the mysterious rogue planet called Planet X is on a collision course with Earth, which will bring world-ending tsunamis and earthquakes. The self-published author says biblical codes he's deciphered suggest that Earth's destruction is imminent. But NASA has maintained throughout the Meade talk that it's impossible for a planet to just sneak up on Earth.
The fix may be in the works for the sinking Millennium Tower in San Francisco. The luxury high-rise has sunk 17 inches since it was completed in 2009, and now engineers have come up with an unusual solution. But as KPIX5's Andrea Nakano explains, it won't come cheap. Andrea.
Yeah, Julia, the proposal on the table to fix the tilting Millennium Tower issue is unconventional and a pricey one, but homeowners are just hoping that it works to fix the problem.
I mean, we're just hoping for the best. That's all you can do if you're a resident here at this point.
Since the Millennium Tower opened in 2009, it has sunk 17 inches and tilted 14 inches to the west and 6 inches to the north. The movement hasn't stopped.
I am a resident here, we own here, and so it obviously is frustrating.
The proposal calls for roughly 300 steel and concrete piles to be bored down to the bedrock. The goal is to stabilize one side of the building and let the other side sink until it levels off. Then additional piles will be placed to stabilize the building.
We're trying to have faith in the proposal that they've come forth with. I think it's the best that we can hope for.
Soil tests are underway for this proposed project, and engineers and contractors are working with the city to get the proper permits. Some are skeptical of this proposed retrofit, but homeowners realize there is no easy fix.
Knowing the way that the building was constructed, I think it's a challenge. It would be a challenge for anyone to come up with the right measure at this point.
The project could cost about $500 million. If it reaches that price tag, it will be $150 million more than it costs to build the actual building itself. Now, this project could take 2 to 5 years, but once again, this is just a proposal, and it's not really in the works at this point.
Russia has accused Britain of staging a fake chemical attack in Syria, a charge Britain called a blatant lie. On April 13th, Russian Defense Ministry spokesman Major General Igor Konashenkov said that Moscow had evidence that last weekend's alleged chemical attack in Douma was fabricated by foreign agents. Konashenkov said that he had proof of Britain's direct involvement in staging a fake attack, but did not provide evidence. Konashenkov's comments were corroborated by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who said that Russian specialists who examined the attack found no trace of chemical weapons. However, Western countries and Syria activists said that they have proof the attack on Douma took place.
Our specialists who examined the area Douma did not find any confirmations of application of chemical weapons, chlorine or any other kind of poison. Moreover, we have irrefutable evidence that this was another staging which the special services of a certain nation had a hand in, a nation that is trying hard to be in the front row of the Russophobic campaign.
4 Israeli police officers are recovering today after being injured by ultra-Orthodox Jewish rioters yesterday in Jerusalem. Police units responded to a large and violent protest by ultra-Orthodox Jews next to an IDF recruitment building. The religious Jews were protesting ultra-Orthodox conscription into the army. Last year, Israel's High Court ruled that blanket exemptions for ultra-Orthodox teens was unethical and it violated equal rights. Police used non-lethal weapons to disperse the rioters like tear gas, but 4 officers were injured. In those confrontations, the police say that all officers have light injuries and will make full recoveries.
Well, firefighters are working in Ellenbrook this evening to put out spot fires breaking out after a big blaze ripped through bushland. Jerry DeMasi is monitoring the situation. Jerry, the main fire has just been brought under control.
Thankfully, yes, Michael. 60 firefighters were able to contain the blaze, but their main concern now is spot fires. Even as we're standing here now, there are lots of ash and embers floating around, which is unfortunately causing flare-ups. We were just metres away from one a few moments ago, and I can tell you what started as a little spark had engulfed several trees within seconds. So crews will be patrolling the area throughout tonight and into tomorrow morning. 3 hectares of bushland has now been completely burned burnt out. It is close to homes, but thankfully the wind was pushing the blaze away from those residential areas. Streets in the immediate vicinity are the Broadway, Farmina Parkway, Elmridge Parkway and Addington Drive. Residents there now out of the danger zone, but there are still road closures in those areas and a fair bit of smoke around still as well. So particularly if you have a respiratory condition, remain inside with the windows closed. Motorists in the area, Michael, are also asked to be extra vigilant with that reduced visibility, but the good news is the fire is now under control, Michael.
Dozens of firefighters are killed each year in the line of duty, and thousands more are injured. Many also suffer invisible wounds, including post-traumatic stress disorder. Chip Reed visited a new center in Maryland where they can get treatment.
Firefighters have one of the most dangerous jobs in the world.
Coming through.
But responding to every imaginable kind of tragedy also takes an emotional toll.
Two teenagers that were in a car, and they slid off the road upside down and into a telephone pole sideways. Apologize, bear with me.
Former firefighter and paramedic Scott Russell remembers the day when it became too much to bear.
I sat under there for 20 minutes as we tried to get all this metal off of her and told her, held her hand, I want to get you out of here.
The teenage girl didn't survive. Russell couldn't sleep, started drinking heavily, and kept it all inside. He made a plan to commit suicide.
I'm sitting in the basement, crying a puddle of tears.
Did you ever think PTSD?
No, I'd heard PTSD, and that's what happens when you go to war.
Finally, he talked to a counselor and discovered he'd been living a first responders version of war.
We talk about the military being on the front lines. I mean, these are the people on our domestic front lines.
Dr. Abby Morris, a psychiatrist, is medical director of a new first-of-its-kind center in Maryland for firefighters struggling with PTSD.
When we call 911, they come. Who do they call? We wanted to be their 911.
There are 60 beds, and treatment lasts 30 to 60 days with 18 months of follow-up. 1 in 5 firefighters and paramedics will suffer from PTSD during their career, but 92% say stigma is a barrier to seeking treatment.
They tend to stuff it down.
This center was the brainchild of Harold Shapeberger, president of the International Association of Firefighters.
We're working to break that stigma away to help our members know that they should come out of the shadows and seek help and treatment.
Russell says that was the hardest part of all.
We want to be that hero for the rest of the world.
A world that needs its heroes to take care of themselves, too.